How exactly did the United States and Israel carry out a preemptive strike on Iran? The answer lies in a highly destructive strategy known as time on target. With 2 aircraft carriers supported by a group of destroyers, they calculated every variable with precision. The result? Israeli fighter jets and American cruise missiles struck their designated targets at the exact same second. Israel's primary objective was reportedly the elimination of Khamenei and the upper tier of Iran's leadership, while the United States focused on battering military installations and other high-value strategic industries. But how did Iran's air defense systems fail to respond in time? The explanation points to the type of warfare the U.S. employs: cutting-edge electronic operations conducted from space, sea, and air. Iranian radar systems were effectively blinded just as destroyers unleashed a wave of cruise missiles aimed at dismantling anti-aircraft defenses. Yet the conflict did not end there. Iran still possesses thousands of ballistic missiles and drones, which it used to strike American facilities and bases belonging to U.S. allies across the Middle East. At this stage, nearly every installation in the region is considered vulnerable. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel initiated a large-scale, coordinated military assault against Iran. Israeli authorities referred to their campaign as Operation Roar the Lion, while the American side labeled its mission Operation Epic Fury.
Good afternoon. I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of United States Central Command. In this capacity, I lead U.S. military forces in the Middle East. I'm here to provide you an update on Operation Epic Fury, now in our 4th day of execution.
The intent behind the joint strike was unmistakable. This was not merely a symbolic display of strength, it was a deliberate attempt to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. As emphasized, this was far from a routine military engagement. The ultimate objective was the supreme leader's personal compound. Missiles were precisely guided toward highly sensitive zones, particularly around University Street, the Jamhuri district, and near past Astor Street. Anyone familiar with Tehran's layout understands the gravity of this choice. This area is not just another neighborhood, it serves as the central nerve hub of the Iranian government. It contains the primary offices used daily by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. However, complications quickly emerged. The Israel Defense Forces claimed success, stating they had eliminated him. Iranian military officials countered that Khamenei was not present in his office when the missiles struck. While the compound itself may have been devastated, the intended target reportedly escaped. At that moment, the entire region paused, anxiously waiting for confirmation of what truly happened next. Subsequent reports suggested that Israel asserted Khamenei's body had been discovered and that he was confirmed dead. The initial wave of attacks was relentless. There was no restraint. It was a flawlessly synchronized and overwhelming assault intended to cripple the regime instantly. The first strikes targeted Karaj, tearing through essential industrial and aerospace centers. Then Tehran, the capital, shook under the impact, shattering any remaining illusion of security. The operation continued. Qom was struck next, sending shockwaves through the ideological core of the country, an area known for its heavy fortification. In the west, missiles poured down on Kermanshah, neutralizing launch sites before operators even had a chance to power up their radar systems. And then there was Isfahan, regarded as the crown jewel of Iran's nuclear and drone programs. Despite its extensive defenses, it too lit up the night sky under the barrage. So how was such a preemptive strike executed so effectively? The operation did not rely solely on nearby land bases. Instead, 2 enormous, floating cities were positioned near Iran. In the Arabian Sea, the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group advanced from the south and east. Meanwhile, in the eastern Mediterranean, the newest and largest carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, stood ready. At the same time, Israeli fighter jets crossed vast stretches of the Middle East to penetrate Iranian airspace. Timing was everything. The instant those Israeli aircraft reached their designated positions, missiles were launched. This brings us to the most intricate and intimidating element of the operation: synchronization. Military strategists employed the doctrine known as time on target. Missiles were launched from submarines, cruise missiles were fired from escort vessels, and stealth bombers released massive payloads, all from entirely different locations and at staggered times. Yet through meticulous mathematical coordination, the U.S. military ensured that everything, from Karaj to Qom, Kermanshah, and Isfahan, was struck at precisely the same second that Israeli jets dropped their guided bombs. The aim was to produce an overwhelming systemic shock, multiple explosions detonating simultaneously to paralyze the regime instantly. When the weapons impacted, it was the very definition of shock and awe. But again, why didn't Iran's air defenses activate? Simply put, the U.S. military operates with technology on an entirely different level. Through a sophisticated blend of electronic warfare and cyber operations, coordinated seamlessly from space down to ground assets, the coalition reportedly fed deceptive information directly into Iranian radar networks, rendering them ineffective at the critical moment. Elite Iranian air defense platforms, including their domestically produced Bavar systems as well as Russian-supplied batteries, were completely saturated by the intense electronic onslaught. However, to eliminate them outright, the United States executed a carefully calculated strategy. They deployed hundreds of ADM-160 MLD miniature air-launched decoys. To an alarmed Iranian radar operator confronted with a screen filled with confusion, these small unmanned systems appeared indistinguishable from a large formation of F-15s or F-16s racing toward the capital. With the defenses effectively forced open, fifth-generation stealth aircraft, including American and Israeli F-35s and potentially F-22 Raptors, penetrated the airspace without being detected. In the end, Iran's air defense grid was not merely neutralized, it was thoroughly dismantled, at least temporarily. That said, Iran still possesses substantial military firepower. Tehran responded with Operation Truthful Promise 4, unleashing a large barrage of missiles and drones aimed at U.S. facilities and targets in Israel. The aftermath was significant. The UAE's Al Dhafra air base was struck, resulting in one fatality caused by shrapnel. In Bahrain, the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet came under direct attack. Qatar's air defense systems successfully intercepted incoming missiles, while Kuwait shut down its entire airspace amid the heavy assault. At the same time, warning sirens sounded nationwide across Israel, as large-scale mid-air interceptions illuminated the skies above Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. But how was Israel able to conduct a mission that required flying such a vast distance to reach Iran? At approximately 9 a.m., Israel deployed more than a dozen aircraft to begin the operation. However, executing such a mission is far from simple. The aircraft must either carefully navigate through or completely avoid the airspace of neighboring nations such as Syria and Iraq. To steer clear of hostile air defense systems, military analysts estimate that the true flight distance to central Iran ranges between 930 and 1,240 miles one way. Although these flight paths might appear direct on a map, they demand intricate preparation. Planners must calculate aerial refueling requirements and precisely coordinate the movement of strike aircraft as they pass through or around Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. The joint Israeli and U.S. strategy divided the assault into three distinct waves. The first wave concentrated on neutralizing surface-to-air missile positions, radar facilities, and Iran's air defense command centers in Tehran, Ilam, and Khuzestan. The second wave shifted focus toward eliminating ballistic missile capabilities. Finally, the third wave targeted military production facilities tied to weapons manufacturing. The operation opened not with piloted aircraft, but with highly calculated, sea-launched precision strikes. The primary objective was straightforward: blind the adversary's radar systems and disrupt their command and control networks. In the Persian Gulf and the northern Arabian Sea, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, including vessels such as the USS Thomas Hudner, received orders to fire. Their vertical launch system cells opened, and within moments, numerous Tomahawk land attack missiles blasted off from the decks. Traveling at subsonic speeds, these cruise missiles skimmed the terrain in what is known as nap of the Earth flight, remaining below the radar horizon to avoid detection.